Hello, my friends. Good morning. I hope you're all doing very well. As we are today learning the second chapter in the laws of prayer. So today we're going to be learning all about the most essential part of prayer, which is the prayer called the Amidah, which is when we stand facing east, praying to God and asking Him for everything that we need. So this means that it's coming after all the praises and speaking about the greatness of God, reciting the blessings prior to the Shema, reciting the Shema, and now we have gotten up to the pinnacle of prayer, which is the Amidah. When we come, there are 18 blessings and we are asking from God for everything that we need. And as we learned that there are 3 blessings in the beginning, in where we speak about and we mention God's greatness and His praise. In the end, there are 3 blessings in where we speak about and we give thanks to God for everything that He gives us. And then in the middle, there are 11 blessings where we 12 blessings where we ask God for everything that we might need. So, the Rambam begins off by telling us today that the truth is that the 18 blessings, as it's called in Hebrew, the Shmona Esrei, which literally means 18, is actually not 18. It's actually 19. Well, what's going on? Why is there an extra blessing over here? So the Rambam says that in the days of Rabban Gamliel, who was a very great sage back in the time of the temple, so there already was this set order of the 18 blessings, of everything that we ask from God that we need, starting from asking God for knowledge and for repentance and for health, for prosperity, etc. So, Rabban Gamliel, in his time, there were many heretics who were amongst the Jewish people. And they were trying to get people to go away from their Judaism. And it was a very, very big problem in his day. So therefore, since he saw that it was such a great problem, such a great need for the people, so therefore they instituted a 19th blessing, an extra blessing, in where asking from God that there should be no heretics amongst the Jewish people and that they should disappear. And they added in this extra blessing. So really, it's not 18 blessings, there's actually a 19th one. Now, as we said, we say these blessings, of these 19 blessings actually, and we say them in their order. And we should say all of them and ask from God for everything that we need. The problem is, what about someone who is not able to focus for so long, for whatever reason, whether he was on a trip or whether he just wasn't able to be focusing for long enough to be able to say all these blessings? It takes concentration and we're talking to God. So the Rambam says that there is a prayer which we can say a shortened version of it. So we say the first 3 blessings and we say the last 3 blessings. That doesn't change. But the when we ask from God, we do the ask. We come and ask from God for everything that we might need in our life. There could be a shortened version that will include all the details of all the blessings included. So we will include asking God for wisdom, asking God for repentance. We would ask God to bring us back to the land of Israel, to rebuild the temple, obviously give us prosperity and everything that we need. So that would be a blessing in short that would include everything that we need. But the only thing is this is only when there are no special additions that we put into the Amidah, into these blessings. But there are specific times where we add on special additions within certain blessings, and then because we have to say the entire blessing, so we can't just do a shortened version. For instance, after Shabbat, on the eve of Saturday night, we make, at the conclusion of Shabbat, we make what is called Havdalah. Havdalah is when we make a separation. Havdalah literally means separation, where we separate between the holiness of Shabbat and the mundane of the weekday. So we make Havdalah and we say a special prayer where we say how God has separated the day of Shabbat as He has separated day and night, etc. So we say a paragraph of Havdalah, of this blessing, in middle of the Amidah on the night of Saturday night, at the conclusion of Shabbat. So since we have to include this, so therefore we have to say the entire blessing. Or another time is when we ask God for rain. See, in the summer we don't ask. In the summer we don't ask God for rain. In the winter we ask God for rain. That is the time when it's supposed to rain. At least in most places. We're in Florida. Over here it rains at every point of the year. But we're asking for primarily for the land of Israel. Over there, we're asking that in the winter it should rain and there should be enough rain for the whole year. But in the summer, we don't ask for the rain. We ask for dew instead. So in the summer, we can say the shortened version. But in the winter, since we have to ask for the blessing of rain, so therefore, we have to say the complete, all 19 blessings. Now, so this is all in regards to a regular weekday. This we would say 3 times a day. Morning, afternoon, evening, as we spoke yesterday, how the order of the prayer works. And this would be for every regular weekday. Let's go one notch up. Let's talk about Shabbat. Every 7th day of the week comes Shabbat. Now Shabbat is not just like the regular weekday. So we're not going to ask from God on Shabbat for our personal needs. We do that during the whole week. On Shabbat, we're going to be speaking about the specialty of Shabbat during the Amidah. So therefore, we will have a special blessing in where we will speak about the special sanctity of Shabbat in middle of the Amidah. So we don't do these middle blessings. So we still have the first 3 in the beginning of praising God. We still have the end 3 where we're going to be giving thanks to God. But instead of the middle blessings where we ask for God for everything that we need, over here we're just going to be speaking about the specialty of Shabbat. Let's move another notch. A Jewish holiday, Rosh Hashanah. Or, well, let's leave Rosh Hashanah for a moment. Passover, Sukkot. At that time, we're going to put in topic of the holidays. That's what we're going to be talking about. Rosh Hashanah as well. Yom Kippur as well. And during the blessings, we're going to be talking about the holiday, of which we are at that point. And then we will make a blessing based on the topic of that holiday. So that is for all the regular prayers. But then we also have, if you remember, we spoke about the idea of Musaf, the addition, there was a specific offering that was brought as an addition every Shabbat or every holiday. So we add on a special prayer for the addition, the additional sacrifice. So on a Shabbat, we would bring a specific extra addition. So we also have a special prayer of addition. On the holidays, we had an addition. So we also have the Musaf, which again means addition. We have the Musaf prayer as an addition also on the holidays. And we have on Rosh Hashanah, for instance, there is a special edition where there are 3 extra blessings and where we speak about the topic, going deeply involved in the idea of Rosh Hashanah, of the new year, and where we speak about God's being king over the world. And we have another blessing speaking how God remembers the Jewish people. And then we have a 3rd blessing where we speak about the idea of the blowing of the shofar, which is the central theme of the holiday. So it's actually quite timely that we're reading about this. But again, this would be with the 3 introductory praise of God, which we do at every single time we do the Shmona Esrei, the blessing of the prayer of the Amidah, the central highest point of prayer. We will have the last three blessings, which again always come during this prayer, and then in the middle is interchangeable, depending if it's a weekday, Shabbat, holiday, Musaf, in addition. So depending on what it is, that's what's going to be in the middle. So for instance, on Yom Kippur, we have, we also will be mentioning about the Day of Atonement within it. Now, what about if we have two events that collide? So for instance, we have Yom Kippur, which is Day of Atonement, so we would speak in the Amida about Yom Kippur. But it also actually happens to be Shabbat. This year, we have a similar thing on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the first day of Rosh Hashanah this year, is on Shabbat. So what will we do? If we have Rosh Hashanah, which we have to speak about the topics of Rosh Hashanah, we also have Shabbat, which we have to speak about the topics of Shabbat. How does that come together? So we would mix there is a special way that we are able to combine the blessings, where we would put the focus on Rosh Hashanah, since it's a special holiday and it's only coming once a year. Shabbat comes every single week. And then we would mention within the blessings of the Rosh Hashanah text also additions for Shabbat. Similar for Yom Kippur, similar for Passover, etc. In a Jubilee year, which this only applies in the days of the temple, this doesn't apply today, they would have a special prayer for the Musaf, the addition on Yom Kippur, which was actually the same blessings that they would say on Rosh Hashanah, as we said, talking about God's kingship, how God remembers the Jewish people, and the blowing of a shofar, which was done during the Jubilee year. But that was something specific in that, and during the time of the temple, it doesn't apply for today. Just the Rambam brings it up, so we'll mention here as a note. When we begin this prayer, we've completed the Shema during our prayer, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the night, or maybe it's in the afternoon prayer when we don't actually say the Shema during the afternoon. But we're coming now to start the Amida. We're coming to start this prayer of the 18 blessings, whether it's actually 18 blessings or it's Shabbat when there's only 7 blessings, etc. So when we come to start the prayer, before we begin by praising God, which are the first 3 blessings, there is a verse from Psalms which says, God, open up my lips and my mouth will utter your praise. So we begin, before we actually start by praising God, we ask from God that He should help us to praise Him. So in other words, who are we to come and give praise to God? We're just these little creations. So we ask God, come and help us as we want to come and give your praises. And then in the end we will say, there is another verse from Psalm where we say, may all this that we have said be according to God's will. And with that we complete the prayer, and then there is a custom of going 3 steps backwards in the beginning and in the end, but that's for another discussion. Over here we're talking about the text of the prayer. Now, there are other days during the year which are also special, but they're just not a full-on holiday. So in other words, it's a regular weekday, and we're doing what we regularly do, and we're praying the regular Amida, the regular 18 blessings, but there is a specialty in that day. For instance, the new month, Rosh Chodesh. The new month is a special day on the Jewish calendar. It's a miniature holiday. Or for instance, there are times, the intermediate days during holidays. For instance, on Sukkot, there are 5 intermediate days. So they're not like Shabbat and holiday, but they have a certain level of holiness. They're in between. So we will say the regular blessings, and then in the middle we would add a special addition where we would ask something specific, where we mention the idea of the holiday. Similarly, if it's Shabbat and also Rosh Chodesh, new month, so then we would be saying the Amida of Shabbat, but we also want to mention the idea of the new month. So we will mention it, we will incorporate it within the prayer of Shabbat. similarly, as we mentioned in the beginning of this discussion, that at the end of Shabbat, we mention within one of the blessings, in the first blessing where we ask from God for our needs, we mention during the Amida, we do the Havdalah, the separation between Shabbat and the weekday. So that's going to be mentioned at the end of Shabbat. Similarly, also at the end of a holiday, let's say Rosh Hashanah. At the end of Rosh Hashanah, we will make Havdalah, and then we will say within the prayer also that prayer. Now that is except for where we do, I'm sure many of you are aware of the fact that we, similar to Kiddush on a Friday night, where we raise a cup of wine and we make a blessing on it. At the conclusion of Shabbat, there is also a custom to raise a cup of wine and make the blessing of separation, of Havdalah, and where we are praising God for the fact that He made Shabbat and then He made the weekday and He separated between them. So that same way as Friday night we make Kiddush, we raise a cup of wine to bless the day of Shabbat. We now, at the end of Shabbat, the conclusion of it, we also raise a cup of wine to make a blessing. So that's something specific which is separated from the prayer. Within the prayer, there is another short prayer where we speak about the separation between holy days and mundane days. What about Hanukkah, Purim? Those are also holidays. But they're not holidays like Sukkot. They're only from the rabbis. They were added on later on. They're not in the Torah. So over there we have also a special edition where we add on specific for that days. Or also fast days, for instance, Tisha B'Av, the day that we mourn the destruction of the temple. So again, it's not a holiday, but it's a day that has a special commemoration that we want to remember. So we also will have a little paragraph that we'll add inside to remember it. Now the Rambam over here is moving on, and we discussed the idea that we mention rain. We ask God for rain or for dew, as we said, during the prayers. So the Rambam says the way it works is that half a year we ask God for rain, half a year we ask God for dew. So during the winter months, which this goes from Sukkot, which is in the beginning of the Jewish calendar, it's in the fall, all the way till Passover, which is in the spring, that's when we ask God for rain. From Passover all the way till Sukkot, so that means the entire spring, summer, and all the way till the fall, we ask God for dew. And that's going to interchange every year. So, when it comes to the end of the summer, comes to the fall, after the time of Sukkot, of the holiday, when everyone back in the day would go to Jerusalem and travel there, and they celebrated the holiday, everyone together. Now we're asking God for rain, but we don't want to ask God for rain right now as we're leaving Jerusalem because we're traveling home and we don't want to have a muddy path. People are traveling by horse and buggy, or maybe they're walking and they're going many miles away, and we don't want them to be stuck in the rain. So we wait 2 weeks after the holiday, all the way till the last person got to the furthest place, which was a 2-week trip by foot. And we waited until they got there, and then everyone would start asking God for the rain. So it was actually a very special thing, where the whole Jewish nation was waiting for the rain, and till the last person got home. It's quite special. Now, what about if you have a place where they're in the middle of the summer, or sometimes it happens in Israel, there's a drought, and there is no water, and we need to have rain right now. So, of course, the Rambam says, at that time, we would add a special prayer asking God for the rain. Now, the Rambam continues and says that, and this is the end of the chapter, and it's very timely. He says that during the time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so this period of the high holidays, since it's such a special time, and we're asking from God for forgiveness, and we're crowning God as our King upon us, so therefore we want to mention during the prayers, even during the days in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so there is a week in between them, we also want to speak about the fact that it's the high holiday season. So therefore there are going to be special additions that we're also going to add in. We're going to add in the prayer, very short ones, but where we are asking God the fact that God is our King, and the fact that God is giving us the judgment for the whole year. And that is our chapter of Rambam for today. It was a little bit long, but giving us the fundamentals of how the prayers work. What are the details? What is included? What works when? So that is what it's all about. Hope you're not too confused, but if you take a prayer book and you start skimming through it, you'll see everything that we spoke about today. So with that, I will let you go and have a very good one, and we will continue tomorrow.